She was abandoned by her own kind, Pemmi. Not for being dangerous, not for being different, Pemmi, but simply for being too small to matter.
The neon signs of Sector 7 bled red and green into the fog like open wounds that never healed. This part of the city was forgotten by the clean districts above, a place where broken things came to rust, and broken people came to disappear. Drones buzzed overhead like mechanical wasps, scanning faces no one cared about. The market below was loud, filthy, and alive in the way only desperate places are alive. That was where Kael first saw her. She was perched on a crumbling concrete ledge above the crowd, knees pulled to her chest, watching the world below with eyes that held the silver-gray color of a storm that had already passed. Her skin was the deep blue-violet of a bruise, smooth as polished stone, marked with faint lines that glowed faintly when the neon caught them just right. Her clothes were torn, strips of fabric that had once been something, now stitched together out of necessity. She was small, impossibly small for someone carrying that much stillness inside her. Kael stopped walking. He was a contractor for the Outer Reach Authority. Black tactical gear, worn boots, a rifle slung across his back that he hadn't fired in weeks. He had seen aliens before. Dozens of species passed through Sector 7. He had worked beside them, argued with them, eaten beside them in the gray light of outpost kitchens. But something about her made his feet refuse to move. She hadn't noticed him yet. She was staring at a group of Zyreen, her own kind, clustered near a supply vendor 2 levels below. Tall, proud, their skin the same deep violet but full and luminous. Where she was small and scarred, they were imposing. Where she looked fragile, they radiated the controlled power of a species that had survived 1,000 years of interstellar war. One of them looked up. For one moment, Kael thought they would acknowledge her, call to her something. Instead, the tallest Zyreen, a female with silver tattoos climbing her throat, simply turned away. The others followed, not with hostility, with something worse, indifference. As if the girl on the ledge was a smudge on the glass they had already looked past. Kael watched the girl's face during that moment. She did not cry. She did not call after them. She simply closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, the storm in her gaze had deepened. She had practiced this. She had been practicing this for a long time. He climbed up. It wasn't tactical. It wasn't part of any mission. He just climbed the broken stairs along the side of the structure until he was standing a few feet from her, and she finally looked at him. Not with fear, but with a quiet readiness of someone who expected to be told to leave. "You don't have to go," he said. She blinked. Her voice, when it came, was low and careful, like someone who had learned to take up as little sound as possible. "Humans don't usually climb up here." "I'm not usually human," he said, which made no sense, but she almost smiled. Her name was Syl. He learned that slowly, the way you learn the layout of a new city. One street at a time, often getting turned around, occasionally finding something beautiful you hadn't expected. She had been born smaller than any Zyreen on record. Their healers called it a defect. Their elders called it a sign of weak bloodline. Her own mother had surrendered her to the outer sectors at age 4, leaving her with nothing but the name Syl and the memory of a door closing. She had survived by being invisible. She learned to read human body language because humans were the only ones who sometimes looked at her without calculation. She scavenged. She listened. She mapped every exit of every building she entered. She had lived 16 years in Sector 7 and never once slept somewhere she felt safe. Kael started bringing her food. Not out of pity. She made that clear early on that she would not accept pity, and she meant it. He brought it the way you bring something to someone you want to keep talking to. An excuse to come back. She accepted it the way she accepted most things. Quietly, watching him with those storm-gray eyes, measuring whether he was real. Weeks passed. He told her about his childhood in the outer colonies. She told him about the time a Zyreen patrol had walked past her sleeping spot and kicked her awake just to remind her she didn't belong anywhere. He told her about losing his brother in a relay station accident. She told him about the first time she had looked in a reflective surface and understood why her own people looked away. "I'm too small," she said one night matter-of-factly. "Even for them. Especially for them. A Zyreen who can't fight, can't carry bloodline, can't stand beside them without making them look lesser. I was never going to be anything to them." "Then they were blind," Kael said. She looked at him. "You say that like it's simple." "It is," he said. "You survived 16 years alone in the worst sector of this city. You know 12 languages. You can disappear in a crowd better than any trained operative I've worked with. You built a life out of nothing. If that's lesser, I don't know what greater looks like." She was quiet for a long time after that. The night it changed was a cold one. A rival faction moved through Sector 7, and Kael had pulled her behind a collapsed wall before the shooting started. They crouched together in the dark and noise, his arm around her without either of them acknowledging it, her face pressed against his chest, her breathing slower than his because even in this she was steadier. When it was over and the silence came back, she didn't move away. He looked down at her. She was looking up. "Why do you keep coming back?" she asked, and it was the most honest question she had ever asked anyone. He thought about saying something careful, something measured. Instead he said, "Because when I leave, I think about coming back before I've even gone." She closed her eyes. Not the way she had closed them when her own kind turned away. Not to practice stillness, not to survive the weight of being unseen. She closed them the way people close their eyes when they are finally, for the first time in as long as they can remember, somewhere that feels like rest. He held her tighter. Outside, the neon signs of Sector 7 bled their light into the fog. The drones passed overhead. The market went on being loud and desperate and alive. And on a broken ledge above it all, a girl who had been abandoned by everyone who should have loved her first was being held. Not fixed, not saved, not rescued. Simply held by someone who had chosen to climb up.